Talk about over here. How could a person properly prepare for retirement? It's a pretty important question. Let's start with the Gemara at the end of Maseches Nidan Davayin. Gemara quotes Rav, who says that once a person's teeth fall out, his sustenance is diminished. Rashi explains that Gemara that when someone gets older, it's more difficult for him to make money. And the Marsha practically explains why that's so. When someone is young, he's able to work, make more money, unlike when he's older. It's more difficult. Guess what? Usually the older a person is, the more medical expenses they have, unless they're covered. And they still have expenses. So you got to figure something out. Now, there's another Gemara in Nida over there that says that someone who wants to become wealthy should increase his business. That's difficult to do when you're older, to go into business, right? It's also noteworthy to point out, before going into a business, do your research, because most businesses fail within the first 5 years. That's fact. You could Google it. What we see from this Gemara over here is that we have to leave enough money to last us for our old age. And we shouldn't give away all of our money to all of our children. Chayecha koidmin, your life comes first. You have to save for yourself. There are many people who, in their older age, they try to figure out their spending habits, their expenses, costs of living, and determine how much they need in order to comfortably live. For many people, this number determines when they are able to officially retire if they choose to do so. Which we're not going to talk about the outlook of retirement in general. We're just talking about if a person does want to retire and what should be done during retirement. That's going to be already another time, another session. Yabitz explains that one needs to daven during his old age that he will remain in a good financial position. That's what Yabitz says. Rabbi Yaakov and the Mainsvi. Furthermore, this Gemara only refers to people who are not scholars, but Talmidei Chachamim, scholars, they're going to be taken care of. That's what he says. Now, someone who responsibly invests a portion of his money from a young age, you won't need to worry about this. He won't have a financial issue when he's older. The problem is that many people are irresponsible. Most people, the problem is the spending, consumption. They spend everything they have to enjoy the now and live like there's no tomorrow. And this is a big problem. And this is what the Gemara over here is cautioning us against. YOLO, you live like there is no tomorrow. You only live once. YOLO. There's a problem over here. There are a few different practical platforms which anyone could take, notwithstanding one's religion or anything nowadays. What the average person does is they basically have IRAs, 401k's, there's annuities. I mean, there's a lot of different platforms out there. We're just going to discuss IRAs right now. An IRA is stands for an individual retirement account. It's basically a savings account with big tax breaks, and it's an ideal way to for a person to put his cash for retirement. Now, the IRA itself is not an investment. View the IRA as a basket in which to keep your investments. Now, in this basket, you could keep your stocks, bonds, mutual funds, other assets that you have. It's all a basket, but it's not an investment itself. That's the IRA. Okay. Now, we already discussed and we had a session regarding stocks. Just stick with the S&P 500. I'll link it over here if you want to see why. Just get VOO on Vanguard. You don't need to get anything else for your retirement and put it in the IRA. We're going to specify what type of IRA. There's something called a traditional IRA. That's a way to save for retirement, and that gives the person tax advantages. Contributions that are made to a traditional IRA may be fully or partially deductible depending upon one's circumstances. Speak to an accountant more about that for more details. Now, generally, any gains in a traditional IRA, including earnings and gains, are not taxed until it's distributed, which means And that's why I don't know so much about traditional IRAs because I don't do them. Once you withdraw the money from the IRA at an older age, guess what? You're getting taxed on everything. This is why I love the Roth IRA. Max it out. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account allowing a person to set aside after-tax income up to a specified amount each year, which means you pay taxes on your income before, but then you put it in the IRA, and when you take it out many, many years later when you're older, then you don't need to pay a dime on taxes. A penny. Amazing. You could start withdrawing money at 59 and a half years old, right before 60. Tax free. If you do want to withdraw, highly recommend leaving it in there. Let it keep going. A Roth IRA is better than a traditional IRA for young people because they're typically in a lower tax bracket than people who are older for numerous reasons are in a higher tax bracket. So someone younger might be paying much less tax than someone who's older, who's paying significantly more. A Roth IRA is a special gift. Everyone should take advantage of this amazing opportunity. Capital gains tax could be 20%. The Roth IRA, you don't need to pay anything. Buy the index fund of an S&P 500 through the Roth IRA, put it in the Roth IRA, put it in that basket. There's currently a limit of $7,000 per person under the age of 50 and 8,000 for those who are older. Max it out every single year. $7,000, max it out. Someone who does this strategy in his 20s until he's 60s will have approximately $5 million. Do the math. Another advantage of a Roth IRA is there's no requirement to draw money at a certain age, unlike certain 401k's and a traditional IRA, which I don't necessarily have a lot of expertise in, but based on the minimal research that I did, another tremendous advantage that we have over here. All right. So that is very important over here. There's something called an RMD, which is required minimum distributions. And those are minimum amounts that a person has to apparently withdraw from a person's retirement account each year. So you have to start taking withdrawals from your traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, retirement plan accounts when a person reaches 72. Roth IRAs do not require withdrawals until after the death of the owner. So that's very important to know. That, by the way, I got from the IRS .gov website. Um, so that's why Roth IRAs are so great. All right. Then you have 401k's. 401k's is basically it's a feature of a qualified profit sharing plan that allows employees to contribute a portion of their wage to individual accounts. What it is basically if you have an employee, for certain employees, they could contribute money every single year and it gets matched, right? So whatever you put in, your employer will also put in. The problem is you got to pay taxes after. That's the problem over there. All right. So that's why I don't like 401k so much, because you're gonna get taxed at the end of the day, which is a lot. So that's gonna be a problem over there. And a lot of times employers they match what the employee contributes. The average 401k employer match in 2023 is 4 to 6%. So some do 6%, only 1 out of 10 companies will do more than 6%. You know, you gotta calculate yourself, right? So that's the issue with 401k's. And also a lot of times another problem is you can't choose where the money's getting invested. The Roth IRA, you know exactly where it's going, right? Uh, taxed. So that's the idea over here. Another advantage of contributing to 401k is the money that a person contributes is taken out of one's paycheck before federal taxes on the income are figured. That's another advantage. I'm a big fan of Roth IRA. I'm going to stick with that. One other point of Roth IRAs is sometimes people make too much money to be able to have a Roth IRA. There's something called a backdoor Roth IRA. If that applies to you, look into that and do that. Anyways, see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed.